I am back again, and today I am going to do the opposite of the video that I posted before. So, last time I was talking about book tropes that I love. This time I am going to be talking about book tropes that I hate. I know I kind of did this video as my first video. Um, so I'm not going to include tropes that I talked about in that video over here. These are going to be like other tropes that I really don't like in books. Okay, so unlike all of my other list videos, I think I will go through this as like kind of like a tier list. So I'll start with the tropes that I don't like, that don't affect me as much, and then like the later tropes are the ones that I really don't like. So number 5, which is the trope that bothers me the least, it is the trope where there's a character and the character kills someone, and then there's like no psychological consequences of that character killing. Now, hear me out, because I know a lot of the times this happens a lot in fantasy, and I know in a lot of like fantasy books, like killing is like more, I guess, acceptable because it's set in like a time when it's more of like a survival thing, or something like that. But it still like bothers me when a character, especially if it's their first time killing, they kill a person but then they're like completely unaffected by it. Like it's like it just doesn't make sense. And I've seen this happen a lot in like middle grade books, so like I understand why, like, the psychological issues are like avoided because that's not the point of the story. But it just still bothers me when the person that's killed is treated like so as such an insignificant thing, especially again if it's their first time killing, and then these characters are completely unaffected by the fact that they took someone else's lives. It just takes me out of the story, and I don't know, I guess it kind of makes me question like the morality of the characters when they're clearly supposed to be good people. um and this happens again, like Ranger's Apprentice is a little bit guilty of this. And even when I was like young, like when I was the target audience, that also kind of like bothered me and made me like slightly uncomfortable reading it, because the characters, like, it's like they didn't care that they were killing people. And it's like there's no consequence. Like, even if they like killed someone and then there was like a little bit of like a shudder, or like, even like the tiniest bit affected by the fact that they killed someone, then I wouldn't have mind. But it's the fact that they kill someone and then it's like as if it never happened. That's what like bothers me about it. Um, like there's no hesitation when they kill someone. And again, this is for like especially for characters who kill for the very first time. Like when it's a younger character and then they kill, and then there's no, like, they don't feel anything. They just completely forget about it immediately after that scene. It's more understandable when characters who kill have already have a history of like killing a bunch of other people. Like that I can forgive. But it's when it's like more of like a younger character and they kill, and then there's no psychological effects of them killing people. It just like, yeah, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that's what it is. So like I said, Ranger's Apprentice is a little bit guilty of this, but if I want to recommend a book that I feel like addresses this issue quite well right now at the moment, I think the only one that I can really think of is the Night Angel trilogy, at least the first book. I didn't read the entire trilogy yet. I feel like, so it's called The Way of Shadows, I believe, by Brent Weeks. So the main character, he gets an apprenticeship with an assassin, and I think this kind of does it pretty well. The main character, he gets a bit of like, he's haunted by his first kill. And so I think this was like, I don't, like, it's not the main focus of the book. but I think it was like handled pretty well, in the fact that the character was affected by the fact that he kills people for a living. That's the only book right now that I can really think of that does this. Um, so yeah, that's the recommendation for a book that doesn't have this trope. This next trope that I'm going to talk about, it might be a little bit of an unpopular opinion in terms of how low it is on this list, especially in terms of later tropes that I'll be talking about. But it's going to be the cheating trope. Now, let me first establish this. I am not a romance reader, and I believe this is why it doesn't bother me as much, because a lot of books that I read, romance is not the main focus, and so when there's cheating involved, it's not like a big part of the plot, or it's not like a huge thing, and so it doesn't really bother me. It still bothers me. Like, that's why it's on this list. It still bothers me, but it's not um, as much of a deal breaker as the later tropes that come out in this uh, list. So here, like for an example of what I mean, mild spoilers for Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Because this is actually the book that actually got me thinking about this trope. So mild spoilers for that. I it's a recent read. So there's this one scene where the main character's dad has an affair with the housekeeper. Now that I know it was a it was necessary with the way the plot was going. It was very intentional, and it still made me really uncomfortable though. Like, I know it was necessary, but like it just, I really didn't like it, and I know we weren't supposed to like it. That's the thing. So it was still a really good book, but so it's very small. So in terms of what I mean, cheating, it's a small part of the plot, but I still hate it. It really bothers me. Not my favorite trope. Sometimes I do understand that it was necessary for the plot. In terms of that, I'm like, okay, fine, I can kind of look over it. Um, I don't really read a lot of romance, like I said. So if there is like a romance in a book and then there's cheating, then I'm not invested in the romance at all. I hate it. But if like, there's enough going around outside of the romance, then I can still enjoy the book overall without the cheating aspect getting in the way. So as someone who is not a romance reader, cheating is not as much of a deal breaker as it might be for some people, but it still doesn't mean that I forgive it or I like it. So there's that. So for this next trope, I was actually kind of struggling with this trope and the next trope. I'm kind of unsure, but I'll just still put it on the third out of the five. It's gonna be Faye. Now, I don't even really know if Fae is like a trope or whatever. I can't with Fae books. I really can't. I don't know why. I just whenever I see that a book is about Fae or it has Fae in it, I don't want to read it. It makes me not want to read. It's such a huge turnoff for me. I don't know what it is, but fairy, Fae, whatever, I can't. I really don't like it. So, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I have no intention of ever reading that because I already know it's about fairies. I do not want to read it. Also, The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Faye again. Like, I don't know what it is about Faye, but when I see it, I just can't. I don't like it. Um, I actually do, though, have two books that have Fae in them. The only reason that I do have them is because I got them for free. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll give them a read. So I will read it, maybe formulate some thought and make a video about them or something. I don't know. We'll see about that. I don't even really know if I'm excited to read them or not because they are about Fae and I'm just very reluctant to pick them up. But they were free. Might as well give them a try. See if I can like phase or not, but I don't know what it is about them. I just can't. I don't like it at all. The other one that was kind of fighting with the Fae, so I still don't know. I might flip the two. It depends on my mood, I guess. It's the huge age gaps. And again, I don't read a lot of romance, so I don't really see this a lot. But um, if you've watched my very first video on my channel, which I don't think anyone has, it's a long video, I understand. No, you don't have to watch it. Um, but you'll know that I I go on Wattpad a lot, so this is kind of a thing. So this is why I really don't like paranormal romances, werewolf romances, vampire romances, fae romances. I don't care. I do not like those romances because a lot of the times when it's between a supernatural creature and a human, there's this huge age gap. I don't care if the guy or like the supernatural creature looks like a teenager. It bothers me when they're like over 100 years old and then they're into this girl who's like 17. It makes no sense. And I don't know. I just can't with it. I hate it. I don't like it. Um, Maybe I'm being a little bit unfair because I don't like romance in general, and so as default, I guess I don't like it. But it's just that extra element of the age gap. It's so icky. It's kind of gross, if I'm being honest. It's like, ew. And like that's the thing. The only reason that this thing is okay is because the supernatural creature looks young, when in reality, like with their age, they would probably look all like wrinkled and aged and whatever. But it's only because of their supernatural powers they don't look their age, and that's why it's okay. Excuse me, like I don't know, it just bothers me. Like these guys, they're over like 100 years old, 1,000 years old sometimes even. What does a freaking 17-year-old have? Like why? It makes absolutely no sense. I don't know. It just bothers me. I don't like it. And the final trope I'll be talking about, again, this actually, I don't even really know. I'm a little bit iffy on including it on this list because I've only ever seen it on Wattpad. And I don't really know if this happens outside of Wattpad because, Wattpad is like amateur writers, and, like not throwing shade or anything. Like it's fine. It's a fine app, and I can read a lot of like free books on there, and that's why I ended up reading a bunch of these books out of curiosity mostly. Wattpad is probably the reason why I don't like romances, which is probably not that fair considering that doesn't have the best reputation when it comes to romance. Um, Regardless, this trope comes out, the number of times I have seen this in Wattpad books is insane. So this happens in so many popular books. It's usually in like a good girl book. And it's when the good girl goes to a party. She gets dragged to a party either by her friend or something like that. It's usually by her friend. Um, and then she gets sexually assaulted or almost sexually assaulted in the party. She gets drunk or something, and then some guy comes and then like tries to like either rape her or like touching her inappropriately. And then it's used as a way to make the bad boy the knight in shining armor. I can't stand this trope. I hate it. It's disgusting, and excuse me, like, why are you, like, I don't know, it just bothered me so much that the girl's trauma is used as a way to further the romance between her and the bad boy. And then the bad boy is made to look like he's not as bad as people think he is because he saved her from being sexually assaulted. As if that's what it takes to be a decent person. Like, or like it's like every decent person would do that. Like that doesn't make the bad boy good or anything. He can still be a jerk. Like I don't know. It's like just so. irritating. It's always irritates me when I see that. And you know, a lot of the times the bad boy is like they tend to be kind of manipulative as well. So it's just because he saved her from being sexually assaulted, then he thinks that I don't know. It's just this thing. It's romanticized. Is what I'm saying. Is this girl getting sexually assaulted and then being saved by a guy? It's romanticized a lot in Wattpad books, and it just like I don't know. I really hate it. It's I don't even really know. Like I just had to add it in here, even though it's more of a Wattpad trope than anything else, because it's something that I just can't stand. I can't stand it. I hate it so much. Just it irritates me, and ugh, it's very disgusting. I hate it. And those were 5 tropes that I hate in books. Um, so I hope that was a fun video. I actually didn't go off on as many rants as I thought I would. I went off completely in the first video, which is why it was that long. So I'm just gonna end it here, keep it short and all that. Thankfully, because I know my videos tend to get really long because I talk and ramble and whatever. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna go now. Hope you enjoyed and bye.